Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to challenge some common assumptions and dig into insights that can genuinely change how we see things. Today, we're exploring a concept that honestly touches almost every part of learning and growth. Think about mastering a skill, building relationships, or even, spiritual understanding. It's this powerful idea that real knowledge, that deep conviction, often doesn't come from seeing something first to believe it. Instead, it comes from acting in order to know. We're going to unpack this principle, which you sometimes hear phrased as the trial of our faith, especially in scriptures like Ether 12.6 from the Book of Mormon. Now, for a long time, that phrase, it's been pretty widely misunderstood. It can feel a bit like, some kind of cosmic test where God holds back, just watching to see if we'll prove ourselves worthy through tough times before giving us any answers.
And that's exactly the picture we want to redraw today. This deep dive is really about offering a much richer, more useful perspective on that whole concept. We want to show you a fundamental principle about how we actually gain understanding and knowledge. It lines up with what ancient wisdom often calls God's higher ways for getting insight. It might feel a bit backward to how we usually think, but honestly, it's incredibly empowering once you kind of get it.
Absolutely. And this isn't just about dusty old texts, right? This understanding is like a blueprint for getting real personal conviction about, anything you're trying to figure out or pursue. It really challenges our basic assumptions about how we learn, how we know. So let's unpack this and see why maybe leaning into this is a shortcut to really knowing things for yourself. Okay, so let's start with that verse, Ether 12.6. How do many of us first read it? Faith is things which are hoped for and not seen. Wherefore, dispute not, because ye see not, for ye receive no witness until after the trial of your faith. And the immediate reaction for a lot of people is, okay, so God's up there, arms folded, basically saying, nope, no truth for you until you believe blindly and just, tough it out. It gives off this vibe of having to endure hardship or just have this, perfect, unquestioning face before you get even a tiny hint, a crumb of evidence.
That initial reading can definitely feel demanding, almost like a setup, but we really need to shift that view right away. It's so important to grasp that God is absolutely not withholding knowledge. Not at all. In fact, this verse is doing the opposite. It's revealing the very mechanism, the how, for acquiring true understanding, deep insight. Think about the prophet Isaiah. He said, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, saith the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways." This passage in Ether, it's giving us a peek into those higher ways. It's clarifying that spiritual knowledge, that really personal, deep understanding. It only comes through faith that's then followed by experience. God's arms are open. The message is more like, you can know this, and here's the path.
Yeah. And that path feels so different from our usual default setting, doesn't it? As humans, we're kind of wired for seeing is believing. We think, okay, if I can just observe it, get a clear demo, then I'll buy into it. We want the data first, right? The proof. And then we'll say, okay, it's true. That's how we navigate the physical world most of the time. Gather evidence, then conclude.
It absolutely is our natural tendency. And look, it works great for a lot of things in the physical world, no doubt. But what spiritual teachings and honestly lots of life experience shows is that direct knowledge, that really profound personal grasp of deeper truths, it often doesn't happen unless you first exercise some faith. You can have something demonstrated right in front of your face. You can nod, say, but if you haven't engaged with it, through faith meaning acting on a belief, however small, it just won't translate into genuine transformative knowledge for you. We see this so clearly in, lots of ancient stories. Think about the Pharisees in the New Testament. These were religious leaders, right? And Jesus performed miracle after miracle right there. Healing, feeding thousands, even raising the dead. I mean, talk about direct evidence. But even witnessing these incredible, undeniable things, many of them still didn't believe he was the Messiah. I saw it.
But it didn't connect somehow.
Yeah.
Like they couldn't process it or accept it.
Exactly. Their minds and hearts didn't truly grasp or accept the truth of who he was. It seems they were looking for a different sign, something that fit their expectations, instead of, acting on the evidence they did have.
That's a powerful point. Seeing isn't automatically believing. And it's not just them. You mentioned the Book of Mormon earlier. Think about Laman and Lemuel. These guys literally saw an angel, a messenger from heaven appeared and told them off for complaining and doubting. You'd imagine that would settle things, wouldn't you? An angel. But nope. The record shows that pretty soon after, they were right back to grumbling and doubting again.
It's quite startling.
So even something as direct as an angel visit, as amazing as that sounds, it doesn't automatically create lasting knowledge or understanding if that underlying willingness to believe and act isn't there. It's like our brains can just wall off experiences that don't fit our narrative.
Precisely. The experience happens, but the understanding doesn't necessarily follow without that element of faith-driven action.
Okay, this brings us to something you mentioned earlier that I find really, really helpful. It's redefining that word trial in the trial of our faith. This is where it gets really interesting, I think, because it challenges that automatic assumption most of us make. We hear trial and we immediately think hardship, adversity, suffering.
Exactly. And while faith certainly helps us through hardship, that's not the primary meaning here. In this scriptural context, and honestly in a broader sense too, trial really points more towards experience or testing through action. If you look at the word's origins, the etymology, trial comes from Old French, trial, which meant a test or attempt. And that comes from the verb trier, to try, to test, to sift. Go back even further. It's from medieval Latin tritare, to sift or separate. And the word try, like when we say I'm going to try this, it comes from the very same root.
Ah, okay, so it's baked right into the word itself.
It is. This connection really highlights that a trial of faith isn't just passively enduring something difficult. It's an active process. It's about trying your faith, testing it through personal experience. It's about doing.
Like stepping onto the bike instead of just reading the manual, as you said.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
Or deciding to run the experiment.
That completely reframes it. So it's less about bracing for impact and more about taking a step, making an attempt. Like a scientist with a hypothesis. They have faith, a belief it might be right, but it's only after they run the experiment, the trial, that they get the data and truly know if the theory works. The experiment itself is the trial of their scientific faith, you could say.
That's a great parallel. Or think about learning to cook something complex. You read the recipe, you watch the cooking show, you imagine the taste. You might intellectually believe, yeah, this sounds delicious, but you don't really know how to make it or even exactly how it tastes from your kitchen till you actually get in there and try it. You mess up, maybe. You adjust things. But through that hands-on trial, that attempt, you gain a real embodied understanding. You know it differently.
Okay, that makes it so much more practical. The knowledge comes after the attempt. Let's try another analogy, maybe simpler. Imagine you have a friend who's just crazy about some obscure board game. Nobody else plays it, but they love it. They can talk for hours about the rules, the strategy, why it's so fun, the enjoyment they get. And you might listen, politely nod, say, wow, sounds neat. I believe you enjoy it. But do you really believe how fun it is deep down the way they do? Probably not. Not with the same conviction.
That's a perfect example. Your initial belief, or, lack of strong belief about the game's fun factor doesn't change the reality that it is fun for someone who plays it. You might trust your friend. You might accept that they find it fun. But even with total trust, trying to grasp it just mentally, it won't work. You will never truly comprehend or know the enjoyment until you sit down and try it yourself. You have to play. Engage with it. And then maybe after a few turns, maybe you pull off a cool move or things get exciting, something just clicks, and then you get it. You understand what your friend was trying so hard to tell you. You know for yourself, wow, this actually is fun, in a way words alone could never convey.
Right. And bringing that straight back to Ether 12.6, it fits perfectly. Even with the board game, the real knowledge, the understanding of the enjoyment, it only came after the trial of your faith. Meaning you had to believe your friend enough to give it a shot, to try the game. That belief led to action, the action led to experience, and the experience led to knowing.
Exactly. The faith was the catalyst for the action.
So, okay, this is powerful. How does this concept, the trial of faith, as active experience translate more broadly? Especially where we're talking about those deeper spiritual truths we often seek.
Well, that board game example really does make it click, doesn't it? And what's fascinating is how directly it applies. Gaining knowledge of spiritual truths, or really any deep truth about life, works the same way. We arrive at a sure knowledge, a personal conviction, only after we experience the thing we first had faith in. It's not about sitting back and waiting for God to zap you with understanding. It's about taking the belief you have, however small, stepping forward based on it, and then the witness, the understanding, comes because of that action. Let's take the principle of tithing. It's a spiritual practice in many faiths, giving a portion of your income. There's that scripture in Malachi, bring ye all the tithes into the storehouse, and prove me now herewith, saith the Lord of hosts, if I will not open you the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing.
Right, the invitation to prove me now.
Exactly. You can believe paying tithing brings blessings. You can hear others share powerful stories about it, but you won't ever truly know or understand that it brings blessings for you until after your trial of faith in that principle, which means you actually have to do it. You have to experience it yourself to get that personal understanding. The blessings might not even be purely financial. Maybe peace, clarity, things working out unexpectedly. But the understanding comes through your action. Just like playing the game was the only path to knowing it's fun, doing the tithing is how you come to personally know the promised blessings.
That distinction you're making between just knowing about something and truly understanding it feels really key here. Like, I know a microwave heats food. I push the button, it works. Seen it a million times. That's knowledge based on observation. But that doesn't mean I understand the physics,
Right.
how the waves make water molecules vibrate, how electricity turns into heat in that specific way. That's a deeper level.
And in spiritual terms, we often hear about gaining knowledge line upon line, right? Bit by bit. And maybe that happens as we prove ourselves through action, not enduring hardship like we first thought, but through these personal experiences we gain by acting on what we believe. We believe enough to try, and then as we experience the results, the blessings, the insights, we start to deeply understand what God, or maybe just life, is trying to teach us.
Precisely that. And it's the exact same reason why, say, someone won't fully understand or gain that, sure, personal knowledge that the Book of Mormon is the Word of God without actually, reading it, engaging with it. You can hear amazing testimonies. People can explain its impact eloquently. You can even say, okay, I trust you, I'll take your word for it. But none of that substitutes for your own experience. It won't light up your mind with personal understanding and conviction. That deep personal testimony comes only after your personal trial of faith, which in this case means believing enough in the possibility of its truth to pick it up, read it consistently, ponder it, pray about it for yourself. It's in that active engagement that the spiritual confirmation often comes.
Wow. Okay, so pulling this all together, it's really not about a distant God setting up hurdles and waiting for us to suffer. It's much more dynamic. It's an active, hands-on journey to get profound understanding. It's flipping that script from I need to see it to believe it, to I need to believe enough to act on it, and then I'll experience the knowing.
Yeah, and if we zoom out, look at the bigger picture. This principle, it really stretches way beyond just spiritual stuff. It touches every single part of learning and growing as a person. You won't truly understand how to play the guitar until you pick it up and practice right. Struggle through the chords, feel the strings. You won't know if that new health routine actually works for you until you consistently try it. It all comes back to gaining your own understanding through your own experiences. It really highlights that personal engagement, that willingness to try, is absolutely essential for deep, lasting knowledge. It's the non-negotiable step.
So maybe something for all of us to think about as we wrap up. What truths might you be holding back from really knowing? Are you waiting for some kind of ironclad proof before you're willing to try? What new skills, maybe deeper connections with people, or profound personal insights might be just waiting on the other side of your personal step of faith and experience? How can you apply this idea acting to know in your own life? To really understand things with conviction instead of just agreeing from a distance? What could be waiting for you if you move beyond just watching and actually make that personal attempt? Lots to chew on there. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Thank you for watching. I hope you've been inspired and uplifted. If so, consider sharing this video with others to help spread the light. What's a spiritual insight you've had lately? If you're comfortable, share it in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the next video.